Rikki Klieman is a CBS News legal analyst and joins us now to discuss this. It's the type of situation where everybody loses. There are no winners in any aspect of this. But just last Friday, Hernandez was found not guilty of murdering two men in Boston. He was already serving a sentence, a life sentence, for another murder. Was there any hope that one day he might get out early if he would have, by cooperating with this most recent case? What was his situation at the time of his death?
On the case that he was acquitted, he had a new lawyer. He had Jose Baez, who, for all of the viewers' memories, he was also the lawyer who acquitted Casey Anthony. So he gets an acquittal in a double homicide case in Boston on Friday. He has been convicted previously, but that case was on appeal. Mr. Baez and his team were going to take over that appeal, and so there was definitely hope, because there were many, many issues in the first case where he was convicted that he, in fact, might have had a good chance of success on the merits on appeal. So there was hope that he might get out, and I'm sure that his lawyers attempted to reinforce that with him.
So, you know, this is happening on the day that his former Patriots teammates are going to the White House the same morning. Do we know, how can officials be so certain in the prison that this was definitely suicide?
Well, the officials are positive, quote unquote, and I say it as a quote, because he was alone in his cell. Allegedly, there were objects put up against the door so that no one could get in. He was hung by a bedsheet. The difficulty you have, which is voiced by his legal team, and Mr. Baez in particular, is that the timing is so suspicious. Here you have a young man who was acquitted of a double homicide on Friday, who cried in the courtroom, who looked around and saw his child and saw the woman who had taken his name, and that a few days later, he's a suicide? Well, according to his legal team, that does not make sense, that it is suspicious, and that there will be a full and thorough investigation. That means an autopsy. That means also we have to remember who Aaron Hernandez is and was. Were there any reasons for gang members of rival gangs to go after Mr. Hernandez in prison? Were there reasons for people who were upset with the verdict last Friday to have friends of friends who might have gone after him in prison? So all of those things have to be discarded for us to get a final official ruling that it was a suicide rather than a homicide. And
you mentioned that he did have some hope in that the murder conviction was being appealed, so there was a possible path out. But what about the victim's family in this most recent case? Did they have an option to pursue other legal recourse? Could he have been potentially fearful of where that may have ended? Well,
let's look at, there are possibilities of two distinct civil suits. You have the civil suit for the convicted case, where you have Odin Lloyd's family that has gone after Mr. Hernandez. Under Massachusetts law, when you are on appeal, which this conviction was, and there is a death of the defendant, in essence, everything is vacated. So how does that affect Odin Lloyd's family with their wrongful death suit? Well, now they can't just introduce that murder conviction and say, okay, he killed my son, brother, cousin, whomever it may happen to be who are suing. That what they have to now do is prove that first murder all over again, and there was never a motive that was introduced for that first murder conviction. So that puts the Odin Lloyd family lawsuit in a bit of a different footing. Here you also have the potential for wrongful death suits by the two victims where the acquittal happened just last Friday. Well, I think that they might have rathered have Aaron Hernandez in the courtroom during a civil suit, being able to go after him in person as well as by deposition if they could. And now you have this person who committed suicide or died by mysterious circumstances. That's not going to help their civil suit either.
And when you're talking about his family, Aaron Hernandez, can they now go after the prison authorities for not having the right measures in place?
Not yet. I think that what you have here is that Aaron Hernandez in no way looked like a suicide. There was no reason to put him on a suicide watch that we know of, not only from the prison officials, from his own lawyer. His own lawyer has said how pleased he was about the acquittals last Friday. So the prison officials did not do anything wrong by not putting him on a suicide watch. The deeper investigation is, should there have been reason to protect Aaron Hernandez, perhaps separate and apart from a suicide?
All right.
Rikki Klieman, thank you for joining us, Rikki, and explaining all this.
Yeah, thank you, Rikki.
Thank you.